Hey everybody, how you doing? Bill Colarulo with Erica Domingo. Breaking news yesterday, huge news out of the NFL. Former Dolphins head coach Brian Flores files a 58-page lawsuit alleging discrimination regarding the interview process with the Denver Broncos, the New York Giants, as well as systematic racism in the NFL with regard to the hiring processes of NFL head coaches. This has been a problem, Erica, for years. The NFL has tried multiple things to hopefully help this issue, and it hasn't worked. One of the major ones a lot of people probably have heard of is the Rooney Rule, named after the Pittsburgh Steelers owner. But the Rooney Rule has its issues, and it really hasn't worked. And basically what the Rooney Rule says is that every NFL team that has a vacancy for an NFL head coach, or even a member of the higher levels, general manager, things like that, have to interview a minority candidate before making a decision on who they're going to hire. Well, Brian Flores kind of talks about that too. It's a little bit ridiculous because some of these interviews are just meant to satisfy that requirement. They've already made up their mind they're hiring the white guy, but yet they have to interview a minority candidate, and it hasn't worked. What we've seen, Erica, since this Rooney Rule went into place in 2003, there have been 108 head coaching vacancies, and only 21 of them were filled by minorities, which is crazy when you think about the fact that the players in the NFL are predominantly minorities. So how is this happening? But we wanted to bring Erica on. Obviously, she is an employment discrimination attorney. She's filed lawsuits like this in the past. I mean, what are we looking at here? This is a bombshell for the NFL and horrible timing for them 2 weeks before the Super Bowl. What are we looking at as far as for litigation purposes here?
Yeah, Bill, and this is, remember now, the fourth time you and I are sitting down to talk about issues in the NFL related to race. We talked about, the concussion lawsuit and the Washington football team now apparently today announcing the Washington Commanders as their new name.
Hate the name, but
love it or hate it, This is an issue that I think crosses all those other issues we've talked about and kind of pulls them all together and says this is a systemic problem within the NFL. When I look at this initially, I go, okay, yeah, the Giants probably have a problem because of this specific interview situation that happened just last week that we're talking about that led to him filing this lawsuit. But I'm interested to see how they're going to pull the whole league into it, because when you look at the numbers, I think you're able to establish that systemic claim against the league as a whole. You talked about 108 openings, only 21 minorities hired for those positions in a league that the players are more than 50% Black. We have biracial players, of course, that don't fall directly in that number, but Black alone, over 50%. About 25% white for players. Why doesn't the coaching staff, the upper management reflect that same diversity? So numbers and statistics are a way we sometimes show discrimination in lawsuits. And if you look at this now with Brian Flores no longer being a head coach and not getting that position with the Giants, there's only one Black or African-American head coach out of 32 in the NFL. I know you and I talked about the fact that there are 3 minority coaches, but only one of them is Black out of 32. And statistically, you go, that can't be right. How can there be so many great Black athletes who play the sport and yet they can't rise to the levels in management, coaching within the team? So in terms of this, I think that league may have a problem. Certainly the Giants are going to have a problem, especially with the information that came out about Bill Belichick's text that he accidentally sent to Brian Flores 2 days before Flores was interviewed, that he meant to send to Brian Dable, who did get the position with the Giants. That's an issue. It really, I think, cements Flores's belief, his reasonable belief that he got a token interview, that this Rooney Rule doesn't work. It doesn't do anything other than tokenize people of color. It doesn't actually give them a fair shake. We've seen other companies around the world who are taking diversity, equity, and inclusion seriously and setting goals for themselves in terms of what they're going to look like in the future. And I think maybe the teams will start to do that. Okay, our upper management staff is going to be at least 25% people of color within the next 2, 3, 5, 10 years, whatever they decide to do. I'm hoping that's something that comes into play with the Flores lawsuit now kind of pinnacling this situation within the NFL.
Yeah, I mean, and you got to give credit, a lot of courage to Brian Flores for coming out and doing this, because there's some talks now already that he's going to be, completely blacklisted from ever coaching in the NFL again. I would pray that that doesn't happen. But it is crazy when you take a step back. I mean, for our football fans out there who may know the names I'm talking about, you got guys like not only Brian Flores, but Eric Bieniemy, offensive coordinator for the Chiefs, Byron Leftwich, offensive coordinator for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. How are these guys not NFL head coaches? And then you have teams like the Houston Texans who are about to hire Josh McCown, who has zero NFL coaching experience. It's like, it just doesn't make sense to me. But, what can we see happen here? Obviously, the stats aren't good for the NFL. That can be used in this litigation. But if this was to be certified as a class action and other minority coaches join in on this lawsuit, what type of damages could we be looking at here with the salaries that we're talking about? We're talking millions and millions of dollars, aren't we?
Yeah. So when you look at that and you say, okay, average head coach's career is, 10, 20, 30 years, depending on who it is. I mean, you could probably average it out. Some only last a few, but then you've got the Belichicks who've been there a long time.
Yeah.
And then you think about the millions and millions of dollars they could make that maybe they're not making in promotional opportunities, an offensive coordinator versus a head coach. What's the difference in that salary? And are minorities not making that jump to the higher salary? This could be huge, Bill. This will be probably a multi-hundred million dollar settlement or, whatever it ends up being. If it goes to trial, I don't think this one's going to trial. I think the NFL and the specific teams will try to resolve this. And I think part of what they're going to do is exactly what I said in terms of equitable relief, looking to make changes in their policies to say, okay, we're going to fix this going forward in a way that the Rooney Rule just doesn't cut it, the way it doesn't do it. We're going to put real systems in place to make these teams look at diverse staff seriously and not just in a token way.
Yeah, and I hope you're right. I mean, obviously the money may be huge, but more importantly, we want to see changes in the future. And Brian Flores has indicated in this lawsuit a couple of areas that they want to be addressed. One, increase influence of Black individuals in hiring. Two, increase the objectivity of the hiring and terminating of GMs, head coaches, and coordinators. Increase the number of Black coordinators. Incentivize hiring and retention of Black GMs, head coaches, and coordinators. And then finally, the transparency of pay for GMs, head coaches, and coordinators, because not only are we seeing minorities not getting hired, but are they being paid substantially less? So let's hope, the numbers may be huge that come out of this, but more importantly, and it looks like what Brian Flores' purpose here, and again, a lot of credit to him, took a lot of courage to do what he did. Hopefully this makes a real change in the future of the NFL. But Erica, I'm sure we'll probably be touching base again. I don't think this case is going away anytime soon. So we'll probably be on the talk. But let's hope this is the last time we have to talk about racism or sexual harassment with the NFL. I'm not naive. We probably will be back talking about them again, but let's hope that we're not, because I know we're all NFL fans here.
Yeah, or let's hope we're talking about the resolution and the steps going forward.
Absolutely. Well, Erica, thank you for your time. We'll be back.
Of course, Bill.
Everybody, thanks for watching. If you like it, we always come out with content like this. We try to keep you guys updated on all things that we feel are relevant to the law. So be sure to like, follow, subscribe, and we'll talk soon. Thanks, everybody.